Char Stories. Welcome to Char Stories. For this episode, I thought to lighten it up a bit. I know our first few episodes have shown our listeners that this isn't the typical Asian diaspora podcast. It's not about me being a fish out of water story, that it's more about integrating all the great things about being both Canadian and Asian into my unique story. Today, I'm going to share some rather embarrassing experiences that have all to do with me downhill skiing. In a previous episode, I believe I already shared that I am not made for Canadian winter genetically. Being Filipino, I am not equipped really for Canadian winters. And so to mentally, emotionally, and physically prepare for Canadian winters, I've genuinely tried to embrace winter sports activities. I learned to ice skate at an early age, and I could keep up enough with the boys in class. When I was 7 years old, I was fortunate enough for my mom to register into weekend ski lessons at Earl Bales Park in Toronto. We rented the skis, the boots, and poles, and I learned to snowplow with the rest of the kids. I improved enough in my downhill skiing over the next few years that I could attend my school ski trips. Another background piece of information, and I believe I mentioned it in a previous episode, but growing up, I was a big tomboy. I was pretty rough and tumble, playing sports with the boys all the time, capture the flag. I was very competitive, and I would always play with the boys, and even getting into a few fights with boys, which is absolutely ludicrous to think of at this point in time, but that's what the boys did, and I went along, right? So I was very competitive. I still am, and it was the thing that everyone was doing. So it was silly and stupid, and it's just a part of my past. So on a school trip before the lunch break, and I decided to go up the hill and try to get in one last run before the break. And at the time, this was mid to late 80s, and I wore a bright red, yellow, and blue color blocked jacket, right? So 80s. And you could spot me easily on the hill. And so I'm on this last leg of the run, and there's this downward slope, and it's visible by the chalet. And I catch some ice on a turn and tumble head over feet downhill. And once I finally stopped at the bottom of the hill and caught my breath, I knew that everyone in the chalet had seen me fall. It was super embarrassing. And I knew I couldn't run from it. Like, where else am I going to go? I'm on a school ski trip. I have to walk in. I have to see everybody after this just happened to me. After having the wind knocked out of me, I walk into the chalet to cheers and whistles and classmates giving me 10 out of 10. I was pretty sour, but eventually I was able to laugh about it. I mean, I can visualize what that looks like, this red, yellow, blue ball falling down the ski hill. But yeah, so that's one of my first embarrassing experiences down. The next story was my class had gone downhill skiing at Mont Tremblant. And I was cruising along on the blue and green ski hills, ensuring I was, being safe and not taking any sort of silly risks. And I was skiing down the curve of the mountain. Where the ski track actually came very close to the edge. And unfortunately, one of my skis actually caught the edge of some ice and I lost complete control. And I was sliding somewhat sort of twisted, but on the back of my skis. And I actually skied right off the edge of the mountain. Thinking about it now, I'm like, oh my God, I skied off the edge of the cliff. I woke up a few seconds later, realized I was amongst some trees, and immediately stood up and yelled up to my friends, I'm okay. I'm okay. Luckily, my skis and poles were only a few feet up the mountain from me, and I was able to hike back up to the ski path. It's one of those things, like, thinking about it now as an adult, it's like, geez, I might have had like a mild concussion or something like that. But at the time, I didn't know any better, and I felt fine. It was just like, okay, well, let's just continue on. Ridiculous. The next one, oh my goodness, these are so embarrassing thinking about them now. The next one was a school trip to Blue Mountain. And again, coming back to my competitive nature, I wanted to ski with the good skiers, though my abilities were not necessarily up to snuff. And the good skiers in the class could go off ski jumps and even do some tricks in the air, crossing their skis and, looking really cool. I didn't know how to do that. I had never gone off a ski jump before, but thought it didn't look that hard. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? I'm just going to go for it, right? So we're all in a line waiting our turn to go off the jump. And each skier, after completing their jump, would head down the hill a little bit further and line up in a row waiting for the next skier to come down. And so I was near the back of the line. My turn came. There were about like 8 skiers lined up waiting below, and I push off and I pick up speed heading towards the jump. And in the air, I didn't know at the time to push my weight forward, right? And instead, when I came down, I landed with my weight backwards, which made me essentially sit back down on the back of my skis. And then with the momentum and speed that I was traveling, my shoulders and head went back on my skis too. So I was absolutely flailing, skidding down the mountain. And the worst part is that I was headed in the direction towards my group of classmates who were all lined up below. So as I'm skidding towards them, I can hear them scream and literally hear one of them say, "Oh shit, she's gonna hit us." And next thing I know, I crashed into the line of skiers, toppling everyone like dominoes, like just dunk, 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 dunk. It sucked so bad. And once we were back up on our skis, needless to say, no one really wanted to ski with me anymore that day. I don't blame them. It was brutal. Um, and so with that, you'd think I'd have enough downhill skiing by the point I'd reached adulthood, but nope. I went skiing with a couple girlfriends, and this last story, it's me being an absolute dolt, and I wasn't even skiing. It was mid-morning. I think we'd gone to Horseshoe Valley. I can't remember. It was one of those, or Mount St. Louis Moonstone, and we had just finished a run and hopping onto the chairlift to go back up. And so we're laughing and talking as we always did, and sat down on the chairlift and lowered the bar. And as we gradually start picking up speed and the chairlift starts to raise in the air, I start being pulled downward out of the chair. And I panicked, grabbed my girlfriend so that I didn't fall right out of the chairlift. And thankfully, as we were just at the start of the chairlift, the crew saw my predicament. I was literally half falling out of the chair, and they stopped the lift. Dude came over, removed my skis as I'm hanging, and helped me to sit back up into the chairlift. As he was handing my skis to me, he looks at me and nods to the sign that is literally right in front of us, and it says "Tips Up." So I'm such an idiot that I hadn't kept the tips of my skis pointed upwards, actually caught in the snow mound that was just at the ski lift. Never laughed so hard at my own idiocracy. It was hilarious. And at the same time, again, horribly embarrassing. But what are you going to do, right? Only me and downhill skiing. Now in my middle years, I stick to cross country skiing exclusively. And, so what's the moral of this story? There isn't one. If my ego was driving, I could try and sell it to you and say I persevered and kept getting back up. But I'm not going to do that today. These Char stories are just for you to laugh at. Go ahead, laugh at me, laugh at the embarrassment, laugh at the visual, perhaps, that I painted for you there. There's more adventures and fun stories to come, so be sure to subscribe and follow.